All right, we're going to give everyone just a few more minutes to arrive before we jump in and get started. So in just about a minute or two, we'll go ahead and jump right in. All right. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Laura at the Plano Public Library. I want to thank you all for joining us for today's program. Please note, microphone and video have been turned off. If you have any questions, you can type them into the chat. Una and Smitha will be monitoring the chat to assist you with any issues and bring questions to my attention. We will be sure to leave time for questions at the end. I do have a few housekeeping reminders that we would like to share with everyone. Please note that this program is being recorded and will be made available on the Plano Public Library YouTube page for later viewing. Soliciting business or selling merchandise during library virtual programs is prohibited. Please show respect for our presenters and one another throughout the program. Zoom provides live captioning. The option is available in the Zoom toolbar. Welcome to our Be a Citizen Science series. This is a series of 3 programs this summer. This is our last one, and each one is going to focus on a different citizen science opportunity. This week, we are going to talk about iNaturalist. Before we get started, though, let's take a minute to look at what citizen science is. Citizen science is a collaboration between scientists and people who are curious or concerned about the world around them and are motivated to make a difference. It was not until recently that science became an occupation. In the past, science was something done in your leisure time. So, for example, in 1674, Antony van Leeuwenhoek discovered microorganisms. He was a cloth merchant who made lenses to look at the weaves of the fabric he was selling. And in his free time, he used these lenses, which were much more powerful than the microscopes of the day, to look at pond water. And that's when he found out that there were small things living in it. So today he is known as the father of microbiology. Over time, science moved into the realm of professionals. Citizen science is a continuation of this tradition of the everyday scientist. Anyone can participate. The data collected by citizen scientists help professional scientists come to very real conclusions. Citizen science results in rigorous, reliable, and trusted science. Don't worry about having the expertise that scientists have. People who are not scientists still have the skills that are valuable to citizen science. As you work on a citizen science project, your expertise on the topic will grow. You are the expert of your surroundings. You know when something is different or off, and this is valuable when you are doing a project about the world around you. Citizen science projects do rely on experts to validate observations, and multiple citizen scientists review the same thing so that a trustworthy consensus is reached. So don't let a fear of being wrong hold you back. Now you can see on the screen here, this is a more organized citizen science activity. These are some people helping with, I believe it was a mountain goat survey at a national park. You can see in the center, there's a park ranger. So while there are organized projects out there, what we're going to talk about today is something that you as an individual can participate in without having to rely on anyone else. And that is iNaturalist. iNaturalist is an online social network of people sharing biodiversity information to help each other learn about nature. Its mission is to connect people to nature and advance biodiversity science and conservation. It began in 2008 as the master's final project for students at UC Berkeley's School of Information. Over the years, it expanded. In 2014, it became an initiative of the California Academy of Sciences, and in 2017, it became a joint initiative with the National Geographic Society. By 2023, iNaturalist had become an independent nonprofit organization. And what you see on your screen right now is a screen grab from April of 2024 of Collin County and all of the observations that have been made there. So there's a lot. It is a big project. It is participated in by a lot of people. So what we're going to talk about today is how you can participate. So iNaturalist is a crowdsourced species identification system and an organism occurrence recording tool. This means that you can use iNaturalist to record the plants, fungus, and animals that you see, as well as get help with identifying what they are. It does not record all ecological phenomena, so rocks or water features are not included. It is only plants, animals, and fungus. There is a web version, and iNaturalist is available as a free app for both Apple and Android devices. Today, we'll be talking about iNaturalist and its features. We will briefly discuss setting up your iNaturalist account, but the intent of this program is to introduce citizen scientists to iNaturalist. So I will talk about creating an iNaturalist account using the web version, but you also have the option to create an account using the app. So you can see here, this is a screen grab from the main page, and you're just going to click sign up in the top right corner. You will need an email to create your account, and you must agree to the terms of use, privacy policy, and community guidelines in order to create that account. Consenting to allow iNaturalist to store and process limited kinds of personal information is required because iNaturalist needs to share usernames and emails to manage accounts. Clicking Learn More will make a window pop up with more details. Consenting to allow your personal information to be transferred to the US is for those users who live outside the US, but consent is still required to create an account. Once again, clicking Learn More will make a window pop up with more details. Agreeing to license your photos, sounds, and observations so scientists can use your data is not required, but it is recommended. If you want your submissions usable by researchers, you will want to say yes to this. So your iNaturalist account. This is your profile page. You can see this one's mine. Your profile has an option to click Edit Account Settings and Profiles that will let you edit your profile itself. So your display name, this will show up on your profile and in any copyright attributions to your observations. And your bio. What do you want other users to know about you? Stick it right here. You can edit your account, which allows you to change your language and time zone. Notification will help you edit what kind of notifications you receive. Now, under relationships, it does allow you to block users. So if for any reason you don't want someone looking at your stuff, you can block them. And then under content and display, you can decide if you want the common name or the scientific names of things displayed when you use iNaturalist. And the community moderation settings. Because iNaturalist is a social network, other users can ID your observations. And we'll get into this more a little later, but this can be very helpful if you are unsure of what you're looking at. But if you would rather others not be able to ID your observations, you can control those settings here. So we're going to jump from the browser to the app. Oh, I'm so sorry. I should have gone ahead. Here is what it looks like when you are editing your profile. So now we're going to talk about using the app to add an observation. So the app is the easiest way to upload your observations, as you can use your smartphone to take pictures and upload them directly to the app. I have an Android device, so the screenshots you're about to see are what the app looks like to Android users. The process of adding an observation to an iPhone is similar to Android devices, but the graphics will look different. You can view the step-by-step iPhone instructions on the Getting Started page on iNaturalist's website. So we're going to start at the main page of the app. It is titled My Observations, and that is what you can see there on the far left. At the top, it will show you the number of observations you have made, the number of species you have seen. Now, this number typically will not match your observation numbers if you have submitted more than one observation of the same species. So if I have submitted several observations of a scissor-tailed flycatcher, it's going to make the number go up under observations, but once I have submitted my second scissor-tailed flycatcher observation, it's not going to add to my species count. And then it will also give you on the far right the number of identification of other users' observations you have made. So in order to make that observation, you're going to touch that green circle with the white plus sign in the middle of it. And you can start your observation by adding no media, taking a photo, choosing an image from your device, recording your sound, or choose a sound recording from your device. I typically choose an image from my device when I add an observation. You can add more than one photo to your observation. It does say 500 photos, but it will not let you upload 500. Not quite sure why it always defaults to 500. Even if you could upload 500, I don't recommend it for one observation. Here to talk about what makes a good observation. So while any verifiable observation can be of some benefit to research, there are elements that you can do that will make your observations even more valuable. Before we continue to getting an ID for your observations, let's just take a moment to look at some tips to make sure your observation goes even further for science. So for a plant observation, which you can see on the screen here, you'll want to take photos from multiple angles and try to get pictures of all parts of the plant, including flowers, needles or leaves, leaf arrangement, bark, and seed pods. So any element of the plant, try and get a good picture of it. Also include a photo of the entire plant that shows its general shape and growth pattern. I like to start with a zoomed out photo and then start taking detailed pictures. So you can see for this garden grape hyacinth, I have the out picture there on the far left, and then right next to it, I have zoomed in on the flowers. Now, if your camera is struggling to focus, you can put your hand or a sheet of paper behind the plant. If there's a breeze, you can gently hold it still to get a photo, but only touch a plant if you're familiar with it. Avoid thorns, poison ivy, and poison oak. When in doubt, don't touch. Include something for scale. So if you think the scale might be difficult to gauge from a photo, you can add a coin, a ruler, or a pencil to it to help measure the scale. And take photos of the plant that are either in full shade or full sun so that the patterns and colors are easy to recognize. And of course, never remove parts of the plant like leaves, seeds, or flowers. And then you can see on the far right, I have annotations for this. And this is where you just add attributes about what you are seeing. So I have said that this plant has flowers and green leaves. A wildlife observation. So wildlife can be trickier because it's more mobile than a plant. Start taking pictures as soon as you see the animal so that you get at least one. As you approach it or get to a better position, you can then zoom in for those more detailed photos. So try to take a picture from different angles and zoom in on helpful identifying markers. So in this observation of a great egret, you can see that I took the picture as I approached him. I also made sure to include pictures that showed his breeding plumage. It's called an aigrette, which is French for egret, and his green lores, which is the skin between the eye and the bill. It only turns green during breeding season. So you can see this was mid-February and he was already gearing up to breed. And of course, never get too close. You never want to handle an animal. Again, under annotations, I marked that this animal or organism was alive. The evidence of presence that I saw was the organism itself. Now, that does mean that if you want to take a picture of their footprint or scat or construction that they build, maybe a bird's nest or a beaver dam, something like that, you can also add that to iNaturalist. And then I could tell by this one that it was an adult. Now, for a bug, approach slowly so not to startle them. I have found it helpful to approach from a direction that doesn't cause my shadow to land on the insect, which can spook them. Try to take pictures from all angles to capture as many identifying marks as you can. For those who have distinctive wings, like moths or butterflies, do your best to get photos of the top and the underside of the wings. Sometimes this is not possible, and that is okay. Zoom out a bit and get a picture of the bug and its surroundings. This is especially helpful if you're photographing caterpillars. Caterpillars thrive only on certain plants, like monarchs and milkweed. So including the plant in the photo can help aid in identification. If you're taking pictures of earthworms, try to get the soil gently cleared off of it. They can be really difficult to ID. So it helps if you can get all segments and all bits of this worm in the picture. I never correctly identify earthworms. All right, so let's jump back to using the app to add an observation. So I have uploaded a picture of a bird this time, and clicking "What did you see?" is going to help you identify the organism. So you can learn more about the organism that best matches your image by clicking on it. Clicking compare is going to show you your picture and the ID picture next to each other. So that is what I have done on the far right there. And you can also see that it's suggested it is a killdeer. So if you click on that, it will bring up information about what a killdeer is. If you're like, yes, I'm pretty sure this is what this is, you can click the green select button and it will identify your observation as that organism. Now, if you go into notes, it's going to give you the option to add more information beyond what you have entered in the observation. So date, time, and location should auto-populate. And let's talk about location visibility. You can change this. There's 3 different types. So open will show other users the location and latitude and longitude of your observation. This is what I typically go with. Now, obscured will make the latitude and longitude more general, and private will post no location information. So if you are submitting an observation of something that maybe it's a endangered species, or you're on some property that you don't want others walking on, you can obscure or mark the location visibility as private. Now, if you're submitting an observation of something intentionally grown, like something in landscaping or at an arboretum, or an animal in the care of humans, like at a zoo or wildlife refuge, you are going to want to click the box next to, is it captive or cultivated? Projects, we'll go into this more later, but add any projects that connect to your observation at this stage. And then once you've finished all that, click the green circle with the check mark and it submits your observation. Now let's see what an observation looks like. So you can see here up at the top, there's my profile picture and my username, as well as the date and the time of the observation. Below that are your pictures with your observations ID below it. Clicking the arrow will display information about your organism. Under the circle with the eye in it, you will see a map showing where the observation was made. Data quality. This assessment is a summary of an observation's accuracy and completeness, which determines its suitability for sharing with data partners. So this just means, is it something that a researcher can use? So all observations on iNaturalist must be a verifiable observation. And this means it has a date, is georeferenced, meaning it has a latitude and longitude coordinate, has a picture or sound recordings, and is not captive or cultivated. And all observations begin as verifiable observations and then are labeled as needs ID. Observations not meeting verifiable status are labeled as casual grade. Verifiable observations become research grade when the iNaturalist community agrees, that is, more than 2/3 of identifiers have agreed on a species ID that says, yes, this is a killdeer. All right, and we touched on annotations earlier when I talked about making a good observation, but here is the screenshots of what that looks like. So you can edit these annotations yourself, or someone else may do it. These will change based on what kind of organism you observed. This is what's shown for birds, so it'll look a little different for a mammal. Is it alive or is it dead? If you're not sure, you can click cannot be determined. Evidence of presence. You can select more than one. What told you there was an organism there if you did not already, or if you did not see the animal itself? Was it a feather? Was it scat or its poop? A track, a bone, an egg, a construction like a web burrow or a nest? And then what's its life stage? Is it an adult, an egg, a juvenile? And if you don't know, that's okay to leave it blank. And of course, is it male or female, or can you not tell? Now, under your comments, you will see others' ID of your organism and any comments that they have left behind. So someone else can agree that, yes, what I saw there is a killdeer, or they might say, you know what, I think it's this. They can also comment. So if it's like a really neat observation, I've had people say, wow, what a lucky observation. That's so neat. So they can comment on it. The star is going to show you who has favored your observation. So you also have the option to favorite your observation here. So if you think this is just one of my favorites, go ahead and mark it as a favorite. Observation calendar. You can view your observation calendar in the browser version of iNaturalist, which I have done a screenshot of here. So you're going to go to your profile and click calendar, and it's going to automatically display the current year, but you have the option to go back for as many years as you have had your iNaturalist account. Dates bolded and in blue are dates you have submitted an observation on. And you can see that some of my blue bolded dates have a gray circle around them. These are dates that have multiple observations, and the darker the gray is, the more observations have occurred on that date. Did I go forward here? Yes. So we're going to take a closer look on April 27th, 2024. And this is a day I submitted a lot of observations. At the top are 3 circles. The number of organisms you saw is displayed in that first circle. So you can see I submitted 32 species on this date. And next to that is a breakdown by family. I recorded 12 plants, 3 reptiles, 7 insects, and 1 other animal. In this case, it was a centipede. The second circle shows the number of observations that I saw that day. So your taxa may be a smaller number than your observations if you submitted more than 1 observation of the same species. And next to it is a breakdown of the locations of all your sightings. And you can see most of my sightings were in Dallas County. I had a few in Collin, but this was a day that I went to White Rock Lake, and so I was in Dallas County. And the third and final circle tells you how many life list first you recorded that day. These are individual species you've never submitted an observation for before. There's the beginning of a list next to it, and then if you click View All, it will make a pop-up appearance displaying the complete list. And this was a event that was happening on the weekend of April 27th that year. It's a city nature challenge, and so the goal was to go out and make as many observations as possible. This is something that happens every April. I will be doing this program again close to that date next year, so we can talk about how to participate. It is a lot of fun. It is a friendly competition between large city areas around the world, but Texas gets pretty competitive between DFW, Houston, Austin, and San Antonio. So list is another thing you can do. We saw that the calendar in iNat maintains a life list. So we're going to take a closer look at list. So again, you're going to go back to your profile in the browser, and list will be the fourth heading from the far right along the top of the page. And your dynamic life list is a list of every species you have ever recorded through iNaturalist. Favorites is a list you can edit. There you can add your favorite species. You can see I have some there. I believe those are ducks, cicadas, kites, vultures, and woodpeckers. And because iNaturalist is also a social media platform, this is a way to let other users know your favorite creatures. And then if you click on the name of the organism, it takes you to an information page about it. And then edit will take you to a page that lets you add a comment, while the observations by you tab lists each time you've seen the organism. And you can create a new list and manually add species from your add to your list option on the right-hand side. But it's not going to sync with your observations. So I have one, it's called My Yard. It's all the things that I've seen in my yard. But every time I take upload an observation in my backyard, it's not going to immediately add it to that list. I'm going to have to do that manually. So I mentioned projects earlier. Let's talk about them now. iNaturalist projects allow users to pull observations with others, and anyone can start a project, but today we are only going to look at joining and participating in iNaturalist projects. I prefer to view projects on the web version of iNaturalist, and they're going to be under the Community tab on the website. In here, you can search for any project that interests you. An easy way to find a project you can participate in is to do a search for Texas, and then it will take you to a list of, Texas projects. And then once you click on it, it will take you to the main page, which is going to look a little bit like this. Want to join a project or not, you'll want to click on the terms and rules in the upper right-hand corner. This will tell you what you must do to submit your observation to the project should you join. And most rules are fairly simple. For example, in one that is called Plants of Texas, it requires that all observations be made in the state of Texas, and the organism must be in the taxon Plantae. Essentially, it must be a plant growing in Texas. Terms are typically similar among different projects. Don't do anything illegal, such as trespassing. Don't use the observations for commercial gains and things like that. And then in the About section, you can learn more about the project. All right, so let's talk about a BioBlitz. So BioBlitz is an event that focuses on finding and identifying as many species as possible in a particular area. And one that is coming up is the Parks for Pollinators BioBlitz. It is a national leader in advancing pollinator health, native habitat, and sustainability practices, and it helps raise awareness about the ongoing pollinator crisis and encourages local action by getting people out in their parks. In each September, Plano Parks and Rec host a pollinator blitz at Oak Point in Arbor Hills. So Oak Point is on the east side of Plano, while Arbor Hills is on the west. And you can join a BioBlitz just as you would join a project on iNaturalist. So you can do a search for Plano Parks for Pollinators BioBlitz 2025 to locate it. Here's what it looks like. And then in September, view Oak Point Nature Preserve or Arbor Hills Nature Preserve and record your observations of flowering plants, bees, birds, ants, wasps, sawflies, butterflies, and moths. And the annual Pollinator BioBlitz helps park staff know what animals and plants are calling these two nature preserves home. And it is for the entire month of September, so don't feel like you have to go on a certain day. Can be any day of the week or time of day that works best with your schedule. Let's talk about exploring on iNaturalist. So in addition to submitting observations, you can also identify the observations of others. And in both the app and the browser versions, you can view others' observations under Explore. So you'll click on an observation to get a closer look at it, then click on the comments to make your observations. If you agree with the idea of the organism, just click agree. And if you think it's something else, you can suggest ID. I like to use the suggestions of others in helping me ID things I'm not familiar with. I'll label something as bird or insect and then wait for someone who knows more than me to help me ID it. In order to return the favor, I try to ID the observations of others. I'm not the best at it, but there are plenty of neighborhood birds I can recognize in the observations of others to kind of help them. Now, if the social network aspect of iNaturalist is something you wish to avoid, then Seek may be a better fit for you. And you can still participate in the September Parks for Pollinator BioBlitz if you want to use the Seek app instead. It is also a free app. No registration is required, no user data is collected, and your location is obscured. Users will scan their surrounding using their device's camera to identify organisms, get badges for their observations, and learn about what they are seeing. But please note, if you get a new phone, all your badges and observations on your Seek app are not going to carry over because there's no registration. You do not have an account. So if you really want to maintain a list of everything that you have observed, I recommend sticking with the iNaturalist app. Now let's take a look at a few iNaturalist success stories. Frosted phoenix moth. An iNaturalist user, Hav Johnson, you can see his profile here, was vacationing in New Zealand when he hung a moth light on his hotel balcony. So this is typically a UV light that attracts moths. And then the next day, you can take kind of a census of who stopped by. And the next morning, he found this moth here that you see the picture of, and he did not recognize it. So he posted it to iNaturalist, and users soon had an answer for him. It was the frosted phoenix moth, which hadn't been seen in 65 years, and he was the first person to have ever taken a picture of it. So iNaturalist is increasing our awareness of things that we didn't know were still around. Now this one does not have a common name, it's just a Latin one. Let me see if I can get it out correctly the first time. Myxostoma petivarium. And back in the 1700s, during one of Captain Cook's Pacific voyages, a snail shell was collected. You can see the drawing of it up there at the top. But a few decades later, it was deemed, new to science, and then no one ever saw it again. And then in 2014, an iNaturalist user in Vietnam uploaded a gastropod that was ID'd as the Myxostoma petivarium by other users. And this was the first time it had ever been recorded alive. So in the past, we just had its empty shell, and now we have a picture of the animal itself. Being a little bit closer to home, we have the green mountain quillwort. Now, this plant was observed in Vermont, and it was added to iNaturalist before it even received a name. So unlike the previous two that had been described to science and then not seen again, this one had never been described by science. And its conservation status today is critically imperiled. And this is a protection that it would not have received had it not been located by a citizen scientist just taking pictures of the plants they came across. So because we know about it, we can now extend it protections. Is next. Don't let these success stories intimidate you. Everyday observations are just as, if not more important, than a standout success. So go out and make observations in your backyard or at a Plano park. Plano has 85 parks and 98 miles of trails. And then you can join and contribute to the Plano Parks for Pollinators BioBlitz 2025 in September. And then if this was something you enjoyed, we are picking our iNaturalist programs back. I'm sorry, not iNaturalist, Be a Citizen Scientist programs back up in October of this year. We're going to start with the app Glow Observer, and we're going to talk about iNaturalist again and the eBird. So at this time, I'm going to take a moment to pause, and if you have questions, you can share them in the chat.
At this point, there is no question.
All right. And if you happen to think of one later, we do have the Ask PPL option on our website. And whoever is monitoring that, as soon as they see a question about iNaturalist or citizen science, they will know to send it my way. And so I will be able to answer it that way. All right. Well, thank you all so very much for coming. Really appreciate you stopping by. Be sure to stay up to date with the Plano Public Library by following our Facebook and Instagram pages. You can find recordings of this and other past programs on our YouTube channel. Please complete our program survey, which should pop up following this program. We value your feedback. Thanks again for joining us today, and we will see you next time.